Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasudanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jasudanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasudanandana Vrajanaranjana Jasudanandana Vrajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasudanandana Vrajanaranjana Jasudanandana Vrajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Good morning, devotees, Prabhus. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 31st, 31, text number 2. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat Nasta Praya Savadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So the verse goes as follows. Thank you, Taraka Prabhu, for posting it on the chat. Dikshita Brahmasatrena Sarvabhutatma Bhedasa Pratichyam Dishivelayam Siddho Bhudyatra Jajali. The synonyms: Dikshita, being determined; Brahmasatrena, by understanding of his supreme spirit; Sarva, all; Bhuta, living entities; Atma Medasa, considering like oneself; Pratichyam, in the western; Dishi, direction; Velayam, on the seashore; Siddha, perfect; Abhut, became; Yatra, where; Jajali, the great sage Jajali. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The Prachitas went to the seashore in the west, where the great liberated sage Jajali was residing. After perfecting the spiritual knowledge by which one becomes equal towards all living entities, the Prachitas became perfect in Krishna consciousness. Purport. The word Brahmasatra means cultivation of spiritual knowledge. Actually, both the Vedas and severe austerity are known as Brahma. Vedas Tattvam Tapo Brahma. Brahma also means the absolute truth. One has to cultivate knowledge of the absolute truth by pursuing studies in the Vedas and undergoing severe austerities and penances. The Prachetas properly executed this function and consequently became equal to all other living entities. As Bhagavad Gita 1854 confirms, Brahmabhuta prasanatmana shochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhukteshu mat bhaktim lavati param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. Never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. When one actually becomes spiritually advanced, he does not see the difference between one living entity and another. This platform is attained by determination. When perfect knowledge is expanded, one ceases to see the outward covering of the living entity. He sees rather the spirit soul within the body. Thus, he does not make distinctions between a human being and an animal, a learned brahmana, and a chandala. Vidya vinaya sampane brahmane gavihasini shunichaiva swapakicha pandita satmadarshina. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, outcast. Bhagavad Gita 5:18. A learned person sees everyone equally on a spiritual basis, and a learned person, a devotee, wants to see everyone developed in Krishna consciousness. The place where the Prachetas were residing was perfect for executing spiritual activities, for it is indicated that the great sage Jajali attained mukti, liberation, there. One desiring perfection or liberation should associate with a person who is already liberated. This is called sadhu sangha, associating with a perfect devotee. The verse again. The Prachetas went to the seashore in the west, where the great liberated sage Jajali was residing. After perfecting the spiritual knowledge by which one becomes equal towards all living entities, the Prachetas became perfect in Krishna consciousness. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurum Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Nagati Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shigurum Dinataranam Paramananda Maharavam Shri Chaitanya Mishwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyavacha Patitanam Pavanivyu Vaishnavivyu Namo Namaha. The Prachetas weren't satisfied with just the austerities, because austerity is actually the key to enlightenment. This is standard procedure for practicing spiritual life. Matter of fact, it's almost intuitive in certain individuals. I felt the need, even when I was a child, to practice certain austerities for no reason at all. It's hardwired into those who are at least a little inquisitive about the nature of the absolute, the nature of the self, that there must be some austerity there. I remember sitting in the living room of my parents' house as a child in the summer, and it was hot. This is Buenos Aires, Argentina, where the humidity reaches sometimes 100% and the temperature is high. I will actually wrap myself with like a blanket, like a curtain, and where there was very little air left. And I thought, this is good. I was thinking, I was suffering, but I thought, this is good. This is something I need to do. I wasn't showing off. There was nobody there. I wasn't telling people about this, but I felt the need for austerity. And same thing when I lived in the jungle before I joined the movement. I was actually practicing austerities, and I was happy as a lark, as they say in America, or as a dog with two tails, just happily practicing austerities. This was because I thought austerity is the key to spiritual enlightenment, and I was right. So here the Prachetas are also not satisfied with not ending their austerities. They have a benediction. Krishna showed up, Vishnu showed up to talk to them, and they got to enjoy for thousands and thousands of years, by the calculation of the demigods, this celestial happiness, which is Akaya Pushpayate, basically like flowers in the sky. It doesn't really exist. It's just a moment in eternity, which with no significance, because it's not necessarily related to Krishna. So this austerity is actually opens one's eyes about what is real and what is not. So they wanted to become liberated. But as Prabhupada says, this is not a solo performance. They need sadhu sangha. They need to associate with someone who is already liberated, someone who is actually a pure devotee or a pure devotee in the making. So fortunately, we have this Krishna consciousness movement. Yeah, one may think, okay, well, one may become cynical here and say, well, wait a second, how many pure devotees do we have? But the fact is that we do have very advanced devotees and very determined devotees and very saintly devotees. We have many people who are very sincere. They may be at a certain stage of their development where all these Brahmani Gavihastini, these this equal vision may not completely manifest. But that is true for everybody. Who among us sees the soul within the body? We haven't even seen each other. We haven't seen ourselves. We haven't seen Krishna. We haven't seen each other. This is how we walk around in life. So how long do we want to dream like that? But at least we have those who are actually in line going on in that direction and showing the path to others. So this society is meant, Prabhupada created it, for the purpose of cultivation and association. So we should take good advantage of it. And sometimes we may say, oh, but how long this person has been in the movement? 2 years. You know, what does this person know about Krishna consciousness? But they may be at a later stage that oneself. One may have spent decades practicing Krishna consciousness in this lifetime, but one may be just starting now, whereas others may have taken their last birth and they're just catching up. Sometimes there are children born in the movement that only live for a short period of time because they are great souls that they are finishing their business. They are burning the last bit of their karma. So at this, we may say, but who are these kids? A kid that just is born, it couldn't be more advanced than a sannyasi, guru, GBC, someone who has been practicing Krishna consciousness for 40, 50 years. But beware, because we can't see the soul. We can only see the body. We can only see the external and some of a manifestation of the internal state, as they say the face is an index of the mind. So we can see some very beautiful, angelic, celestial looking beings being born in the movement that apparently they don't have much attachment to sadhana bhakti. They're extremely attracted to kirtan, and they somehow or other they keep in the association of devotees, which so we don't know who they are. And until we get this vision of a soul, we cannot really judge. We can't tell who is who. So we are all gathered together in order to advance, in order to facilitate each other's spiritual life. So this is the point of a society. Otherwise, a community, a society is very difficult to maintain and to interact within, because everybody is an individual. Like sometimes people accuse us, hey, but if you join a cult, you guys are all the same. You're all just obeying a single order from a guru. And oh no, even the guru will tell you that, nobody's listening to him anyway. Actually, people are doing whatever they want. If you think your individuality is canceled by joining the Hare Krishna movement, well, wake up. It's not true. It's on the contrary. You become more individualistic than ever. You actually realize who you really are, who you're really supposed to be. And you have your own desires and aspirations and different attachments and areas where you're more comfortable and where advancement is easy. Like some are more disposed towards austerities, for example, and some are less. Some are more inclined towards study, and some are not interested in books. I know devotees who are actually very advanced, but they're not studious. They can quote a verse, they can quote scripture. You won't find them reading a book ever, but they're always engaged in service somehow or other. So would you say, oh, if someone is not a Brahmin, it's not advanced? Not true. Kolavitra Sridhar wasn't a Brahmin. Ramananda Roy wasn't a Brahmin. There's great examples of people who weren't Brahmins and who were the most advanced devotees. Of the four main associates, closest associates of Lord Chaitanya, Ramananda Roy, Sarupa Damodar, Madhavi Devi, and Sikhi Mahiti. Which ones were the Brahmins? I think Sarupa Damodar was the only one. So what the point of being studious or apparently in a category that defines advancement in Krishna consciousness is not enough. One actually has to have devotion. One has to have love within one's heart. And the more one advances, the more this is visible. This becomes visible. Like the example in Gitanagari, Kaulini, Mother Kaulini, who passed away, unfortunately. She was a saintly person. And did anybody care to know what Varna or what ashram she belonged to? No. Well, that's a point of advancement, that all the designations, and this is the same argument that Lord Chaitanya had with Ramananda Roy, all these designations, they drop as advancement becomes prevalent. So let's analyze a little bit of a purport. And also, when one is imbued with Krishna consciousness, one wants to share it with others. That is inevitable. There is no happiness which is achieved without sharing. Just trying to make advancement on one's own without sharing it with others is not really Krishna consciousness. I had a dream last night. I woke up at about 2:30 in the morning. I was dreaming that I needed to pee. There's a daily occurrence, and I had to I was somewhere in a mall or whatever. I had to find a public restroom. So I went in, and there were a couple of stalls, and one young guy, as I was going into the stall, he pushed the door of his stall. So I thought, wait, I need to go, and I was here before, but I didn't say anything. And then he just moved to the next stall, and they faced the street. It was on the second floor. So as I was relieving myself, I heard a thud. So I actually looked out the window, and this young man that pushed the door of my stall had a sheet around his neck and just tied it up to the toilet and threw himself just to hang himself. So I actually, somehow or other, I just reached out the window and he was unsuccessful. So I brought him back, and I started talking to him. I said, we are not the body. You cannot get rid of your problems by getting rid of the body. We are a spiritual soul. You have to make spiritual advancement in order to get rid of the misery. He said, but what about the misery? You don't get rid of a misery by realizing that you're not the body. I said, no, not completely. You have to endure the misery because it's part of your karma, it's part of your journey. And this tolerating is purifying, and it will actually help you reach the spiritual platform. And then I woke up. I thought it was a good lesson to trying to understand that life is not about avoiding misery. Life is about making spiritual advancement, and misery may be part of the educational system that we have to undergo. So the inconvenience of practicing austerities it should be minimized by the fact that one is in spiritual progress. So austerities should be not torture, but actually an incentive. Okay, if I can do this, I can make spiritual advancement. Great, bring it on. This this should be the mentality of that we should obtain one day, hopefully, when we become detached from the body, because we are all very attached to our bodies. How many times did Prabhupada say we are not the body? And how many times during the day do you remember that you're not the body? In the purport, Prabhupada said the words Brahmasatra means cultivation of spiritual knowledge. Actually, both the Vedas and severe austerity are known as Brahma. Vedas Tattvam Tapo Brahma. Brahma also means the absolute truth. One has to cultivate knowledge of the absolute truth by pursuing studies in the Vedas and undergoing severe austerities and penances. I wasn't minimizing the advantage of studying. I'm just saying that some people are not inclined towards studies, and it's okay. It's okay. We should be able to live with that. The Prachetas properly executed this function and consequently became equal to all other living entities. So, and Prabhupada, the Bhagavad Gita confirms, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, one who is transcendentally situated at once realizes Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So this is very difficult to achieve because of the many material desires that we have. He never laments or desires to have anything. That's a very high stage of development. Because both things, to the desire to have something, is a mental projection. And lamentation means that one is actually identifying with the body or with the mind or with history that the body and mind has. And one becomes equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, Krishna says, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So pure devotional service is in a different category as devotional service. We should pray for pure devotional service. When one actually becomes spiritually advanced, he does not see the difference between one living entity and another. This platform is attained by determination. So this is something like the scriptures say that one should never give up charity and austerity and things like that. So determination, as recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, also should never be given up. Enthusiasm, patience, determination, charity, austerity, these things are keepers. When perfect knowledge is expanded, one ceases to see the outward covering of a living entity. He sees rather the spirit soul within the body. So it's not like one can't hear people talking, or one can't see the body, but sees the spirit soul within the body, which is the truth. The truth is that we are spiritual entities. Just like I was thinking, I thought quite a while ago, but I was thinking, I was very attached to books when I was a teenager. And this was customary in South America, that on a Saturday night, instead of going to dance, to a party, to get inebriated, intoxicated, one will go to used bookstores and look for classics or, just great pieces of literature. And so I was doing that. I was reading voraciously, trying to learn, to understand. But after I started reading Prabhupada's books, I realized that Prabhupada's books are the only ones that belong in the nonfiction section of a bookstore. because everything else is fantasy, sci-fi, as a product of imagination. It's not related to the self. It's speculation at best that may come near the door, but yeah, so I concluded after reading Prabhupada's books that Srila Prabhupada was the only non-fiction writer I knew. Everybody else was a fiction writer. Interesting. Thus, he does not make distinctions between a human being and an animal, a learned brahmana, and a chandala. And then quotes the verse Vidya Vinaya Sampane from the 5th chapter of the Gita. The humble sage, for virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Outcast. So how to get to that vision? With determination, with patience, with good association, with studying, trying to understand the nature of things and not being passionate where knowledge is precipitated by the modes of nature instead of by higher knowledge. A learned person sees everyone equally on a spiritual basis, and a learned person, a devotee, wants to see everyone develop in Krishna consciousness. This is what I was saying about sharing it. That is not enough. Okay, so you achieve some degree of Krishna consciousness. It's not you want to rule over everybody else and show them how good you are at this. You want to bring everybody up to that platform and beyond. That's, yeah, we think, okay, I'm reading the biography of Indra, where he was truly desperate to see his spiritual identity. And I was thinking that, I don't know, it seems like, without criticizing him, he's in his own category. But I wouldn't be satisfied with just understanding myself. I have to help others. This is the point, that one needs to help others to reach the same or better level, because that's the desire of the gopis, that everybody else is better. This is the most advanced devotees think little of themselves. They think everybody else is more advanced. That's how you can see your advancement. If you think yourself advanced, then you haven't made much advancement. That's the vision of a Uttama Adhikari, is that everyone, whether material or spiritual world, is practicing devotional service except for him or herself. So that's a tall order, very tall. Again, a learned person sees everyone equally on a spiritual basis, and a learned person, a devotee, wants to see everyone develop in Krishna consciousness. So it sees everyone equally on a spiritual basis, not on a material basis. Like, oh, you're better than me because of this reason or that reason. It's a spiritual platform, a key for a spiritual platform, not for the material platform, where one may develop low self-esteem and get it confused as humility. The place where the Prachetas were residing was perfect for executing spiritual activities, for it is indicated that the great sage Jajali attained mukti there. One should actually seek an ideal place away from a contamination of the mode of passion and ignorance in order to practice austerities or to practice Krishna consciousness. So in that sense, we have a great advantage that we are in a holy place, Gitanagari, which is a bucolic, beautiful farmland in the middle of literally nowhere, where we can actually practice Krishna consciousness without impediment. There is no pollution, crime, there's screaming, noises, etc., etc. There is a little screaming. So this is a very good place to practice spiritual life. One desiring perfection of liberation should associate with a person who is already liberated. This is called sadhu sangha, associating with a perfect devotee. We have the association of the deities, Shri Shri Radha Damodar, Lalita Vishaka, Nitai Gaura Sundar, and the association of Srila Prabhupada, his books and his followers. And we have the association of Paramatma constantly. We're never alone. Paramatma is always with us. And if we care to listen, we can actually hear Paramatma giving dictation, whether internally or externally, through others, or through signs or indications. So that's the end of a purport, and that's the end of class today. So please feel free to chime in if you have comments, questions, or corrections.
Haribol, Farooq, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Thank you for your class. I'm wondering, you were saying that nature of this material world is misery. And yeah, it sounded like you were making the point that it's just something we have to tolerate. So I'm wondering how to reconcile that with Prabhupada's statement about kind of like, yeah, being well situated, you know, the Gajendra pastime, he says, talking about fighting from a place of strength. So if I conveyed my point clear enough, if you could please elaborate on that.
This is a Dukalayam Asasvatam. Yeah, this is a place where everything is temporary and there is misery surrounding us. It's not necessarily that we have to wallow in misery, but misery will be there, just as a subtle but pervading presence, just like air, and is unavoidable. So the point that I was making is that if one dedicates an excessive amount of time, or even a considerable amount of time, to avoid misery, this is not the plan. This is not how you get out of misery, because the misery is the product of your past. And avoiding misery is not going to modify the present. It's only going to modify the future. Whatever actions you perform right now, they will affect your future, but not your present. Your present is determined by your past. So whether you are in land or water, you should make the best business out of a bad bargain. Meaning, what can I do to make spiritual advancement from my position, from wherever I am situated right now, by destiny, by my own doing, by the consequence of my own actions. Misery comes to some and more to some than others. I mean, we have different trajectories in our karma, and I don't think is anybody free from misery. But how you take it, that is that make a difference. If you feel miserable and you blame others, or spend an inordinate amount of time trying to fix what's wrong with that. You're actually missing the point that you should, like, for example, it's a simple example. When you chant japa, your mind will just wander. It will go here and there. So if you let the mind wander, then you're missing the opportunity to make spiritual advancement. And if you actually try to control your mind, then you will actually take advantage of it. So when misery comes and your mind is being tortured with maybe images of the past or blame or mistakes or sinful desires or lust or greed or anger, whatever is you're being tortured with, you can actually use the same technique that you use for chanting japa. Okay, well, thank you for that, but I have things to do. I have a task at hand. I have Krishna consciousness. And if it becomes too intense, then you grab your bead bag and you will certainly supersede it. Like I remember being in a particular place under the I don't want to say tutelage, but under the supervision and dominance of a particular leader, trying to do my service. And this person happened to be a bit of a, how can I put it mildly? I don't think I can, a megalomaniac, a self-centered person who didn't really care about others. So I felt extreme pain due to humiliation and abuse. And I knew I couldn't just voice my discontent and said, you are such and such and this and that. So what did I do? I just ran to the forest with my beads and I chanted loud and desperately. I mean, some of the best rounds I have ever chanted. I was not avoiding the misery, but just trying to use it in order to reach Krishna. Just like in music or in writing, doing both of them, I kind of know about this. When you are in a melancholic state is when some of the best works come out. When there is this push, this force behind you. So sometimes your best times in Krishna consciousness come out of an apparently negative situation like misery. So it's not that you have to find the best place to stand. You have to use whatever circumstance is. You may be hungry and you may be in a parking lot somewhere. But if you have prasadam, you don't care to look for a fine dining establishment or good furniture or beautiful cutlery and dining ware. You just satiate your want, your need in a parking lot. It doesn't matter where you're at. So yes, when you experience misery, you can always have the shelter of Krishna, wherever you are, whoever you are. Does that answer at least partially your question, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Do you want to share your thoughts on the matter? I'm sure, I mean, most of the questions that are asked during class are asked by devotees who already know the answer. They are just given an opportunity to the speaker to expose, to reveal their own mind, or a chance to speak a little more about a certain subject.
maybe in some cases, but not this one.
Okay.
But I think I don't know. It's this one point you brought up about our misery is due to our past life, so we kind of yeah we're kind of bound by it. I mean, it's inevitable. We'll have to suffer. But I'm wondering because especially now in ISKCON, there's all this kind of like self-care, yeah, self-care emphasis. So does that mean that's a waste of time? Because if we're just gonna suffer due to our past life anyways, then what's the use of these kind of self-care methods?
Well, my reading, and this may be a bit rough. I mean, it's not a very subtle reading on my part, but it's that we belong to a different generation, and we are not cut from the same cloth. So nowadays, people need other type of methodology in order to remain sane, and they need a lot of care and attention, whereas in the past we didn't. I don't think we even consider. We grew up with a different type of society and a different type of parenting, where we were told, okay, just like when Brahmananda was told to start a magazine at Hayagriva, they had read a magazine. They never, Prabhupada empowered them, yeah, sure. Or when Shivananda at age 18 went to Germany without speaking German to open a Krishna conscious center, he didn't say, well, I have to take care of myself first and I have to see where I'm at, and when I'm ready, I'll go. No, he just I don't know how he made money, or just went to Germany and started. But nowadays, things are quite different. People are a little more fragile. Their mental state is questionable. We were, yeah, like nowadays, every kid in school has ADD. Every kid in school. We didn't even know what it was. When I grew up, and if I wasn't paying attention, my father hit me in the back of the head, and he cured my ADD immediately. That was a methodology when I grew up. They just send you to the corner, they'll send you to your room, no dinner. It's not like you needed 3 years of therapy after that. You got over, oh, I must have done something wrong. Okay, I'll try not to do it again. So the self-care that you're referring to, I think, is important for those who need it. And I think there's a whole generation or 2 generations that they've been probably spoiled or ruined by poor parenting. Maybe it's not the young people's fault. Maybe it's the parents' fault. But you have to make the best business out of a bad bargain. So you got a material body. You were born in a particular generation. You were born a certain set of parents. That is on you. That is not on them. The fact that you show up at this time with in a certain environment, it's on you. You're the one who created this situation. So try to just transcend it. Like I was telling the young man in the dream, no, don't try to avoid the misery. Try to endure it and search for your real identity, which is spiritual. So wherever we are at, in whatever condition, from whatever generation, whatever level of education, understanding, advancement, wherever you're at, try to be Krishna conscious. Try to practice Krishna consciousness. And look for the association of those who are actually advanced, those who actually inspire you, not because of their charisma, not because they have followers, not because they can deliver a great lecture or lead a great kirtan. Those who are actually, some may be subtle and in the background and don't want any recognition, but those are the ones who you should seek the association of, because they understood the message of Krishna and they are practicing, they are getting closer and closer to Krishna. And by their association, you can actually share that trip and go with them. So no, I don't decry or deny self-care. I just say that it's meant for certain people and not for others. Just like when you go bowling, there's this automatic rails that go up when you're a really bad player, and then you're gonna bowl and it's gonna go off into the gutter. So they lift this guides so the ball at least gets to the pins. So for some, they may need that, and for some they may not need that. Either way, the goal is the pins. So it doesn't matter how you get there. The point is to get there. Take all the help you can get if you need it.
Thank you. And yeah, that's a great analogy.
Thank you.
I might be like a bowler, kind of like Divya. In that analogy, I'm kind of like a Divya at bowling.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think Divya had hit more than one pin in her bowling career. But she's still not discouraged by that. Okay, there is nothing else. 5 minutes away from greeting the deities. Are you saying Haribo Prabhu, or you're saying you have something with both hands?
I always have something.
I know you do.
I want to say that real self-help is chanting Hare Krishna. And that in general, our Vaishnava program is to try the necessities of the body and the mind. Sometimes we overcomplicate these matters. The general tendency in material life is to give excessive attention to whatever we perceive to be our bodily and mental needs, but the actual necessities are very simple. And I think it's important to try to distinguish between what truly is necessary and what is not, and try to keep it simple. Anyway, I want to thank you for a nice class. There's lots of great points in there. You spoke about the fact that advancement in Krishna consciousness does not really depend upon how do I put this? My brain is useless to me sometimes. Reading is not necessarily an absolute necessity. We have in our separate, you gave some examples. Example I like to use is that of Gorkishore Das Babaji, who was illiterate. Yet he knew the philosophy of Krishna consciousness backwards and forward, and he could speak eloquently on any transcendental topic. But he was completely illiterate. He couldn't even sign his own name, as Srila Prabhupada said. The classic example, of course, is the the brahmana from Sri Rangakshetra that Lord Chaitanya encountered, who was ordered by the spiritual master to recite Bhagavad Gita every day, but he couldn't do it properly because he didn't have the training and he was illiterate. But he nonetheless realized the purport of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna consciousness doesn't depend upon reading necessarily, but at the same time, Srila Prabhupada emphasized the importance of reading his books. He asked us all to read at least an hour or two a day. And he told us that if you don't read these books, you will simply eat, sleep, and fall down. And practically we see that happen also, that sometimes due to neglect of reading, studying the philosophy, devotees fall down in their Krishna consciousness.
But if I may, we also have seen devotees who memorize thousands of verses and they fell down too.
Yes, it's true. It's not simple. There's a lot of different ways that devotees can fall down. So, yeah, my point is that Krishna consciousness doesn't depend upon reading necessarily, but it sure can help. If you have the ability to read, it's a good idea to read. No one should neglect reading unnecessarily. It's important, but Srila Prabhupada said that 90% of our advancement in Krishna consciousness actually would come from our chanting of japa. That was what he regarded as most important, and that's the process for this age. It's our thing. We are the Hare Krishna people. We chant Hare Krishna.
Jagannath Pandit Prabhu wrote in the text in the chat, japa is the highest form of spiritual self-care. As I care more about myself, I care more about my japa. This is said by Mahatma Prabhu.
Right. That's my assertion. What else did I have? I actually had a question, but there's no time for that. So we're up to 8 o'clock, I guess.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your valuable insight, as usual. Well, to be continued. This doesn't end here. Thank you, devotees, for attending Bhagavatam class. Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya. This all which is bad and wrong and messed up is corrected by regular attendance to Bhagavatam class. And to
Shri Radha Damodar.
Hari Hari. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Radha Damodar Lalita Vishaka Nitai Gora Sundar ki jai. Jaya Lalita Vishaka Lalita Vishaka Shira Jaya Nitai Gora Sundar Nitai Gora Sundar Gora
Jaya Nitai Sundar Sundar
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Namo Vishnu Krishna Prasad Srimad Bhagavatam Swami Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Bhattacharya Nirvishesha Shunyavali Paschatya Dishataya Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Shri Guricha Shri Parma Eva Bhavata Isa Sam Dara Dara Eva Shamradino Debrasade Desa Ashara Gavdana Gaya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Ananda Koti Vaishnava Istom Vividi Kamaraj and Shilokam Nama Acharya Shivakas Pramsi Shishila Every down now, you will allow me to let it go. It's a drop down, each of us to be here. Itanato, Chadanda, Polita Shakadi, DJ, Restaurant, DJ, Langamai, DJ, and Munamai, Swati Tulsi, right now, second and DJ. Nida Egora Primanandi, Spavita, the DJ, oh, glory to the sun. Oh, glory is the son of the Lord. Oh, glory is the son of the Lord. Oh, glory is the Lord. God is human. The Lord is here. The Spirit demands us to be in the ship's God, you will know our rest. I was saying the conversation to the suffering and change. Just only uses around my mouth and spirit God. Attaching the word the affection, all along is that your interest is still to the truth. Is my Lord word and be inside and my hand is sure the very scriptures. Our spiritual lives, see what she is, when the reform, Lord, is all that's the US was, give us the state of the Lord's your faith and prayer over the know. You can see. The Lord's speech, you don't know about Jesus, right? Yeah.
Deliveries or controls that are needed to change before changing as a one. Now, what I mean, there's no, they're kind of meeting.
I like that.
And I'm supposed to cartons, right?
No, interesting.
I love every single reason change. Changes.
Is it Canadian?
Something was really serious.
No.
She said, I was hoping you weren't serious. You gotta get her data. This is different.
Let's go. Before you
Well,
oh, yeah. That was mommy. No. Oh, yes. That's true. Hare Krishna. Have a great Krishna conscious day.